The city of Harare by tuning to the Harare's hub of education, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station, Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
Well then, the man himself is finally in the studio. Professor, good morning and welcome to Startup Capital on Capital 100.4 FM.
Good morning, Talent, and thank you for having me.
No, we are honored to have you in the studio. We have a lot of questions, and because unfortunately we've had to lose time because then obviously your commitments are clearly quite pressing lately. We'll get right into it. The first question everybody's asking is, what happens to the new curriculum? We've got a new administration. Are we keeping it? Are we changing it? What happens to the new curriculum that was introduced by the former minister?
The new curriculum gets reviewed. The new curriculum gets tweaked. But the new curriculum basically stays because that's what the nation wants. But let me quickly go on to say that we have already started a review process in order to deal with the concerns and issues that have been raised by various stakeholders who include our teachers, who include the parents, who include even some of the learners themselves, who have made some recommendations or raised some concerns after the first year of implementation of the new curriculum.
Right. But you're not completely new to the ministry. You were the former deputy minister. Yes. What's your assessment of the state of the education system in Zimbabwe?
The state of the education system is generally good. There are many areas that are excellent, but there are a lot of areas that need improvement. Everyone knows that we still have many communities where we don't have good schools, and a lot of the resettled areas, for example, have satellite schools with hardly any infrastructure. We need to improve on that. There are many areas where we don't have adequate teaching and learning materials, not only related to the new curriculum, even before we rolled out the new curriculum. There are areas where we had challenges with teaching and learning materials, and those are all things that have to be addressed. We are in the 21st century now. We need to make sure that every learner is brought into the 21st century with everyone. There are areas where we don't have adequate, for example, ICT, infrastructure, the gadgets and other things like that. All those areas have to be brought so that we don't leave any child behind as we move into the 21st century with our education system.
All right. Fungai sent a message and says that, is the old curriculum outdated or irrelevant? Because the way it was propaganda driven after failing to produce the promised jobs. At least that's the perspective of Fungai. What are your thoughts on the issue?
The issue of jobs cannot be linked only to a nation's curriculum. The old curriculum was, to a very large extent, outdated. There had not been a major review for 75 years. And the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into Education and Training, the CET, of 1999, had highlighted most of the problems that were associated with the old curriculum. It was unfortunate that since 1999, there had not been any meaningful implementation of the recommendations that had come out of that commission. So there's no doubt that the old curriculum had become outdated. The world has moved, and Zimbabwe needs to move together with the world into the 21st century.
Right. As always, we do encourage you can call us, text us, send us a voice note on our studio lines. That's 0717 777 777. We'd love to hear more from you. You can call us, text us, send us a WhatsApp message, voice notes, or you can actually use our other line, which is our landline number. That's 04 495 112. And you can phone in and speak to the minister himself. Now, one of the things I have to ask you, because the messages are pouring in as well, is first of all starting with the priority list. The president has asked for a priority list from each of the members of cabinet. What's the priority for primary and secondary education?
From government, from the executive itself, from the president's office itself, two issues had already been put on our plate prior to us considering our own priorities. First, implementation of the new curriculum. Second, addressing issues of infrastructure within the sector, the primary and secondary sector. We have since added issues related to teacher capacity development. We have since added issues related to making sure that our schools are economic units themselves, which can produce and contribute to the economy. And by that I mean all our secondary schools who are in the process of rolling out a water reticulation program, which is linked to the development of horticulture at every school, and in ways that can maybe contribute something like 100,000 to 200,000 to the coffers of the school. We have already done 280. We will not be ordinary. Tinoda kuti timove Zimbabwe in a very competitive level, and we should now aim not to compete only within the African region, but ngati compete with the best in the world, so that we have a human capital. Inoita kuti maybe within just one generation, Zimbabwe can lead in innovation, Zimbabwe can lead in industrialization, Zimbabwe can lead in socio-economic transformation. So let's not accept to be ordinary as Zimbabweans. Let's make sure that we go way beyond the ordinary. Nyaya revision ya Ataura, we have already put up teams with revision iitwe, so that our tasks are realistic, so that they are not overburdening on our learners, so that learning becomes fun, even as it places some obligations on our learners. Saka revision we are doing for sure.
Right.
And remember, it's only 1 year of implementation that we have gone through.
Right.
And a process review is currently underway. And we'll be looking at all those issues to make sure that we have a realistic curriculum.
Okay. Minister, we do have a caller on the line. Hello, good
Yes.
morning. You're listening to Capi Talk 100.4 FM. You're live. Who am I speaking to?
Leona, good morning.
Morning, Leona. What's your question to the Minister?
Yes, firstly, I would like to thank you, Capital, for this discussion, and to thank the Professor for making time to be on radio to discuss this issue. We're happy with the new curriculum. I've really understood in explaining what it's going to do to our children, and that we were lagging behind as a nation. And as you know, change is not easy for everyone. Change is difficult. So he has to push on, and we have to push on and press on. But what I would like to ask the Professor is, can we have workshops that include us parents as well? Because one thing I'm noticing is that we as parents, we are not well informed. We do not understand, like I'm speaking as a parent as well. I have two kids who are in primary school. And having to do homeworks with them, I have to go on the internet. And some of the answers I'm getting on the internet, I'm like, for an 8-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl, can she really comprehend these things? So as a parent, I also get stuck. I don't know how to help my kids with the homeworks that they are bringing home. So maybe if we can have workshops that also include us parents to come in and also understand this curriculum and help us on how we should help our children. Because some of these the language that comes on the internet, you really feel it's too deep for an 8-year-old boy to understand. But as a parent, I have no other resources. I'm forced to go on the internet to help my kid with the homework. So I think we need to be involved as parents. And also speaking to the teachers, it seems the teachers themselves are not yet well equipped with this curriculum. Because I've been asking the teachers questions myself. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to help the children here and there? But it seems also the teachers themselves are struggling. And sometimes they even give you remarks like, we don't know. The weight is too much for us. And another thing is the issue of the pupil-teacher ratio. You find the government schools, a teacher has got 50 pupils in one class. And with this workload, really it's impossible. So I don't know how we can address that issue of the pupil-teacher ratio in our schools, because it will also impede this new curriculum to be effective.
Leona, thank you so much for your contribution. I think you speak on, maybe even 10, 15 messages that have already come in. Professor, this seems to be a resonating issue. What are your sentiments on that?
Let me thank the caller, Leona. Firstly, thank her for acknowledging that this updated curriculum is something that we need as a nation. So I want to thank her for that. I also want to thank her for acknowledging that change is not easy. But let me quickly say I also take note of the fact that we need to push as much information out as possible to find different ways in which we can push information on this new curriculum to our public as possible. Part of the anxiety, part of the trepidation that people have about this new curriculum is simply because they don't have adequate information on it. She talks about capacitating our teachers, and I wouldn't agree with her more because we need that. We need to continuously hammer on making sure that our teachers are capacitated, they are understanding their new roles in a better way. We give them opportunities to air their concerns, and then we address them. Workshops within the school with parents so that there is better information on the new curriculum are also needed. And I think most of the urban schools have the wherewithal to hold these and to bring in the parent body in order to inform them better about the curriculum. Right. So I agree. All
right. Professor, we are down to our last 10 minutes, and there are literally, I think, thousands of questions that are coming in. We even have questions. We are live streaming on our Facebook platform, and we even have questions coming in on our Facebook platforms. We've got questions coming in on Twitter. Clearly, you've been a man on demand, so we might have to ask you to come back again, because clearly people have a lot of key issues that they want to ask. I even have another caller on the line, so we're gonna prioritize the call on the line. Okay. Hello, good morning. Hello. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost that one, but we do have a voice note that came in from a listener, and before we get to it, there's a message that Casper Kopera posted on our Facebook page. And Casper says, why has it taken so long to use the $9 million worth of resources that was meant to benefit schools, and the year has ended and nothing with schools, especially in the rural areas? And this resonates with this particular comment.
Yeah, but my question is, maschools edo mazhinji acho especially kumamisha ko ari below standard. Tadita tanga tagadzirisa infrastructure ema schools edo. Some of the people vari kudzidza pasi pemiti, but tiri kumhanya tichina notenga tite new whatever new curriculum. Yet this nengreni icha cover icha benefit vana vematowns because vari kumamisha havana that equipment. Tingati IT but ine mamwe malabs akagara for 10 years awakwa but hapana chiripo, no development iriko kuma rural areas. Tadita tanga tagadzirisa the whole system then tozoisa new curriculum. Thank you.
Professor.
Ndinonzwa zviri kutaurwa nevanhu panyaya ye-infrastructure nema-resources. The earlier question was related to the 9 million. The 9 million was made available through EDF, the Education Development Fund, this year, and immediately we went into the procurement process. It's not the ministry which is doing it, it's the fund manager, which is UNICEF, and there are specific processes that they have to go through. They are at the tail end of those processes, and we are hoping that prior to opening next term, we'll have distributed these teaching and learning materials. And we're targeting mainly the less advantaged areas, the schools that are in the less advantaged areas, in the rural areas, which cannot afford to buy their own teaching and learning materials. So that's our target in order to equalize the opportunities that our learners have. The caller who left voicemail is saying, let's perfect the system before we start the implementation of the new curriculum. There can never be perfection of a system, there are always going to be needs. By their very nature, resources are limited. And if you wait to perfect before you start, then you will have problems. You will never start. We have started. We are seeing the teething problems. We are addressing those problems by making sure that, for example, in the rural areas, we are going to develop schools this coming year. Maybe in January we start on building 17 schools, new schools in various areas where there were satellite schools. And before maybe mid-year, we are going to roll out a program of joint venture partnerships to build new schools. We want to cover, to begin with, the 1,500 satellite schools that we have. And we are on course to coming up with an innovative way of doing that.
Right. I have a follow-up question for that, Professor, but clearly there is a lot of action on our lines. People are trying to get in. So while we try to get through and get a hold of our lines this morning, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're continuing with the conversation with Professor Mavhima, and we're going to go right through to 10:30. So keep your messages coming in. They are pouring in without encouragement. But the studio line is 0717 777 or you can call in on our studio numbers. I do have a caller right now. Hello, good morning. Who am I speaking to? Unfortunately, we seem to have lost that line. We're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we keep the conversation going.
I understand one thing is about to get real hectic up here. Something epic is about to happen. We're going in real legendary. The greatest thing to ever happen.
The final Unplugged of 2017, presented by Coca-Cola, is around the corner. And our special guest straight from the UK is Tim Westwood. If you're a real hip-hop head, then you know what time it is. Live acts on stage including Edith Wiltonga, Transit Crew, Boy Mac and Suede Third, Simba Tags, Takura, and of course the resident DJs Reverb 7 and TK Beats. Because it's December, this Unplugged is strictly no under 18. So whip out your blanket, some wine, and the whole squad, and join us at Wingate Golf Club on the 16th of December, starting at 2 p.m. Limited advance tickets available for $10 at webtickets.co.zw or $15 at the gate. Unplugged. Love live music. Proudly supported by Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
Westwood, summer morning, certified heat. Let's go.
Like I said, you're tuning into Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station, Capi Talk 100.4 FM. Our live guest this morning is Professor Paul Mavhima, who is the new Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, former Deputy Minister for Primary and Secondary Education. Now, Professor, just before we went to the break, you were talking about building new schools. Now, a lot of the concerns that are coming in, especially to do with rural schools, is that the current schools we have aren't working. If we focus on building new ones when the ones that exist aren't working well, are we not misprioritizing? Why not make what we have work first before we introduce new ones?
Now, we have to understand the situation clearly. I have a school in a village in Dotito, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not up to standard. But my learners there are under a roof. But I have another school on a farm in Mazowe, where beneficiaries of the land reform program settle there, A1. And I have 300 learners in Paul and Daga sheds. Do I go to Dotito first before I go to Mazowe? I have said I'll go to Mazowe because there is no infrastructure there as a priority. So when I'm talking about these new schools, I'm talking about schools that we're building in places where we don't have schools. They are makeshift sheds that have been put because kids have to go to school. So that's my priority. But even as we do that, I am saying the school in Otito does not have ECD facilities. And therefore, as we come up with our joint venture partnership, we are not just going to focus on building new schools, but we are going to say those rural schools that don't have ECD facilities, let them be included in that rollout.
Right. Professor, I'm going to just cut you quickly. Hello, good morning. We do have a caller on the line. You're live on Capi Talk. Who am I speaking to?
Hello, Anzazi. Utara na Mkoma Masimba.
Mkoma Masimba, muda kutiudza kuti chitu tina Professor Mavhima, the minister.
Tekutanga rekanditi kuna minister. Excuse me, teacher, I am late. Don't syllabus ateka dzidze. Andizwe.
Ndizvozvo Mkoma.
Makadi minister Mavhima honorable makadi hemi makorokoto. Apinda muofisi.
Tinotenda Mkoma Masimba.
Wamavhima ndinozati mnogamuri busy mutupo wenye chinda
Mkoma Masimba pane vamwe varida kutofonawo chisvika pamubvunzo wenyu
ndendira kudara nzazika ndakupa mapoints angu ndokuti ga ndikuziya mutupo wawo nokuti naga ari busy
ndinoera ngara wamambo
wangaro uri muzukuru wangu iwe right muzukuru chinzwa muzukuru chekutanga ndakutenda nebasa rawapinda uye zori panguva yakaoma uchida kuseta ofisi yako muzukuru ini ndetwa Mkoma Masimba ndakadzidza pagrade number 4 primary school ndinorangara grade 1 ndakaverenga bhuku rababa namai Mutema vaiva nevana vavaviri Taurai naTarisai vaMutema vaiva Hombarume mai Mutema vaiva Mhizha mbuya vavo vanzi mbuya Zimunga uri panzwa ndichine memory ezesezi saka naye kuti muzukuru ka iwewe uri pabasa nyuwani tikada kuchinja hatina mari hurumende haina mari minista fanidza haaprove ngati kwete stick to zvataigara tinazvo tinobasa even vana vachidibvunza mahomework anazidyawo nomugombo tinoziva nyaya navagudo nyaya yachigubhu nyaya yezinyoka mugumbeze saka naye kokuva muzukuru kapacurriculum apa hurumende haina mari right dai mangoti siya tangoita zvingoripo zvakazviripo for now then muzukuru number 2 vana havachadzidze pamhepo hana muri pakapitoka apa vana vakabagidza redhiyo dai pasina kapitoki iyi vakaenda kunana mamwe maredhiyo handisiko mataura naStar FM vanogonyadzana sekuru bhanda nyadzana madzibaba masango vari kuzwa nhema muzukuru ndiwo minister ini saMkoma Masimba my hand is up I want to be a volunteer itaiwo children program ite mahomework nevana paredhiyo vana vari kudzidza kana ini nditaremember zvandakaita ndiri grade 1 ko mwana wanhasi akanzwa nyaya dzasekuru bhanda nyaya dzamadzibaba Steve dzekunyepa anozodii mwana mangwana saka muzukuru ndapota iwe saminister panational radio penyu ngatiite program yevana pahomework time ini Mkoma Masimba I want to be a volunteer I want to be a teacher vevana nekuti ndinoziva zvese zvandakaita kuprimary zvese zvandakaita kusekondary muzukuru ndokuti basa rawo nareri muzukuru ka ndinokushura zvakanaka muri eZimbabwe tisanyanye kutuka kana kupota achiri munyowani muzukuru wangu ini sekuru wake ndiri pano ngatimupe nguva uyezve tinomusapotawo maticha ndo shamwari dzako muzukuru ari kunyunyukira kutema maticha ose tambopiwa chance yekuti ndogona kuita ndokumbirisa chose tishande pamwe nemuzukuru wangu tiende kubasa nemazvo titiche vana iye muzukuru wangu ndiye minista wenyu abvuma kuya paredhiyo akasununguka muzukuru wangu munhu wekuti kati kushanda naye zvakanaka let's support this man for now ende ndini sekuru wake akanesa inona ndichitaura kuti muzukuru atadza basa
Mkoma Masimba
kushura zvakanaka chose uye muzukuru ndangoti tinodawo redhiyo Mkoma Masimba vari volunteer madiaspora people toda kuticha wane kuZimbabwe kuti wane kudiaspora hatina link pana sisi tiuda tikuzwa nyaya dzekunyepa kana kune muroyi ngamboyaroye nini hakuna anoroya muZimbabwe ndatenda muzukuru ndatenda
zviri munzeve Mkoma Masimba. Mkoma Masimba is actually phoning from Melbourne. Saka at least we do appreciate our callers who are listening internationally. Zviri munzeve mazvinzwa here nai?
Ndazvinzwa sekuru Masimba ndofunga vachakateerera ndazvinzwa ndanzwa nyaya mbiri pane imwe nyaya yavari kuti ngatirambe tichiita zvataiita but pane imwe nyaya yavaunza inotaridza kuti vari kuti ngatiendei mberi nyaya yeradio broadcast ndinofunga kuti tasaririra isu seZimbabwe radio broadcast television broadcast pane mahomework anobatsirwa vana. If you go to South Africa for example, they have a very robust system where they do mathematics, science on the television. We as Zimbabwe needs to put resources into it. I have received some calls from the diaspora with people saying we have broadcast equipment which can be used for purposes of putting some of the lessons on radio. Imagine if we had a dedicated radio to education, how we could disseminate this information that we're talking about today into the entire country. even responding to some of the homework issues that people have been talking about. So it's very important.
Right.
What I want to take from Sekuruma Simba Ndekuti, some of our folklore tales that he was referring to are still very important. They are part of our heritage. We need to maintain them, reinforce them, make them even more prominent in the teaching. But at the same time, let's also embrace the change that we have to bring into our education sector. And he talked to both.
Okay. Now, I will say, Mkoma Masimba wanga wakaterera painzi iwewe ni tine basa ne the former president. So clearly, I would say I do love the that position. Ekuti, what can I also do to contribute to progress? But we were just talking before Mkoma Masimba phoned in. We were talking about the new schools versus developing the other schools. One of the major challenges that also exists, maybe because I know I'd cut you off quickly before you ended, then maybe you can address that in the tail end of the answer. Kuti vanhu vari kutanzi vana vari kubuda maschools edu havasisiri the same quality of education that we used to have, because either my facilities acho haana kukwana, and because we're sending children to schools without the proper facilities, even their performance is being hampered by that. Meaning tinenge tichiti pane chikoro chiripo, but zvavari kubuda nazvo hazvisi kubuda zvakakwana. So maybe if you can also then address that in the tail end of your answer, Minister.
Yes, the Zimbabwean situation for the past 15 or so years is well known to everybody. Our economy has not done perfectly well. Various reasons. Part of it is almost the pariah status that we had received as a nation. The lack of international engagement also affected on our economy. And therefore, there were very little resources within the country to improve on any services, not just education. If you look at health, we had similar problems. So there's no doubt about that we lacked resources for a long period of time. And we have also lacked resources for remunerating our teachers effectively. So we have to put all that into context. Our hope is that with the new dispensation, we are going to rejuvenate the economy, and the trickle-down effects of that are going to be felt in every sector, including education. But having said that, we still remain very, very well placed in Africa especially. But as I said, we should not just judge ourselves in comparison to only the regional countries, but we should aim to do better.
As always, we say join the conversation. Our studio lines are open. That's on 0717 777 777. You can phone in on that number, or you can also phone in on our landline number. That's 04 495 112. You can get in touch via social media on Facebook. We're streaming live on our Facebook page. That's on @CapitalFM, as well as on Twitter. We have messages coming in from all of these platforms. Clearly, this was a conversation that was well overdue. Kristen Southerton is saying, Hansi Yama, new schools, kuno kusatherton kuna a high school, we need one. Even Kulokinva, please make plans, just at least a practical plan, because the students have suffered and they come in a buzz in the commuter fares, and we can't only have raw folks affected. Let's look at this wholesomely. But on Twitter, we have a message that came in from Clive Mandi, and he says the new curriculum is very necessary. The world is changing. We must adopt. Dokora's approach to meeting that end was uncalled for. Hope the new minister learns from his predecessor. And I've got another message, and it seems there's quite a few issues, and I want to go back to Nyayema tasks and other issues that came up. And this one is saying, Anzi, is it true that if I want to rewrite a subject, I now have to leave work and go back to Form 3? I live in the rural areas where we do not have computers and electricity, and is education for those in the towns only? Murkuita sa dokora. And then there was another message on Facebook. Yangayakati Hanzi, I'm just going to look for it quickly. But Hanzi, this is Clyde Takudzwa Maponga, who's saying, what does the new minister think was the cause of Minister Dokora's ouster? So I think in a nutshell, a lot of people have misconceptions that need clarification. So if you can at least start with answering Form 3E, and then we can then address Kuti. People were saying Kuti, the approach Yakashandiswana minister, part of that was the reason why he ended up being relieved of his position, but also, is the implementation going to change going forward?
Let me start so I lay that to rest. I'm not going to discuss my predecessor. I am not the appointing authority. I was not privy to the reasons why he was let go. So let's not discuss that. But the second issue was Form 3. Yes. Pave ne element ye continuous assessment per O level. Which means and this is being brought by the fact that curriculum edu it as much practical as possible. So a combination of the theoretical but also the practical. We are still working on improving on the continuous assessment. It's one of the areas where people have clearly stated that we need a revision in order to make the tasks that are required for continuous assessment more realistic. Also that as the learners go out to complete some of the tasks, they are doing it in a safe environment and with supervision. So we are looking at all those areas. But chimwe chatiri kuda kuti chiite paite smooth transition. Vanhu vanenge vachida kusupplementa havana kuita zvakanaka previously. Saka tinofanira kuti tiite come up with a process inoita seamless transition. And all I can say to them at this particular point in time is that they shouldn't worry. We are coming up with a clear process as to how they can manage their continuous assessment so that it can then contribute to the grade in the final analysis. Saka hiyo we are working on it. We are already having teams from ZIMSEC and from the ministry to work on that. What I want very, very robust answers on concerns such as the one that has been raised by this particular audience.
Right. And because we always say, we lead the conversation and we're giving platforms for people to ask questions. Yes. Some of the questions that have been coming in since yesterday on our Twitter platform, people have been excited about your coming on radio. And so some of the messages said that, Anzi, the Form 3 accounts task also requires that learners visit companies in order to see how the books of accounts are done. Where does a child who's deep in the rural areas get an account and, a company, and at what costs? Another question is, another listener had also said, Anzi, the projects are also problematic. In that the very immature learners have to do 10 projects for O-level and 3 for A-level. Does this not present a challenge where a 16-year-old learner to do so many projects and still read for exams and normal lessons? Anzi, as for the A-levels, it even gets worse where the projects are so long that they have to do dissertations in the 3rd and 4th year that pale in comparison. Anzi, for example, the history project requires that someone writes about 15 pages. So to put that in a bit of context, our understanding that the projects were supposed to allow continuous assessment and remove the pressure of exams. And yet just this last term, our learners had to do continuous assessment projects as well as exams, as well as study for other things and class tests and things of that nature. So it seems the pressure has mounted and not necessarily been balanced out.
I have talked to issues of scheduling before, and that we need to look at that to make sure that we schedule things in such a way that we don't put too much pressure on our learners. But also, having said that, let's not have a nation that is just happy with the ordinary. Let's have a system that pushes our learners to be able to feel challenged by the things that they do, so that we prepare them for a highly competitive global environment. This is what has transformed countries like China. Just accepting that challenge, just accepting that as a nation we have to do the best we can. But like I'm saying, we are looking into it, making sure that the scheduling is proper. Some of the work has to be done in Form 3, so that by the time they get to Form 4, the expectations are realistic. Also,
Hello.
All right, if I can just quickly. Madam, hello, good morning. You're live on Capi Talk.
Hello, into Mainoku ndiri kuspona ndiri kugurure.
Mainoku.
Ndine ruzhori shoma pamusoro pe-new curriculum iyi. Handina haunga kuti dzidze asi ndikaruzivo kachona kashoma zvako asi ndambotibate ndinoda kuti ndionawo kuti sezvo ndine mwana grade 1 ndinombotarisavo masilabhasi ndichiona kuti zvakamira sei kuti ndinozobatsira mwana wangu. Ndaona hanzi pane inonzi indigenous language igrade 1 iyo ndiyoshona. Koya inonzi physical education must display information and communication technology inenge inonzi ndo IT ka ndo makombiyuta kaya.
Yes.
Aya tiwirira nawo aya. Hanzi maths and science. Zvino kuti maths and science zvinhu zvakabatana here hamuna zvinofamba sei ipapa rinenge rasubject 1 here I don't know. Kozvanzi visual and performing arts.
Yes.
Family and heritage studies.
Yes.
Primary. Handimoona. Saka ini pandiri kutasa ndichiona apa ndaona zvinga kuti physical education yenyu ine mass and display zvinenge zvinhu zvimwe chete ko mukazvibatanidza maths and science apa igrade 1 kai zvino muri kuzvibatanidzirei maths and science maths dzabatanidzwa and science and maths ya one subject confusion yachona hazviconfuse vana here but mwana wangu ari kutopinda kugrade 1 kanda siga ini dongora ndingasagona zvibhori zvinyi.
Aiwa, Mainokuka ruzivo rwenyu rwakatowanda stereki saka matoita matotifonera. Minister, kubvunzoi.
Ndoda kutenda Mainoku. Ndoda kutenda Mainoku nekuuya muine information. Ndanga ndakatarisa pamama muchitaura ndanga ndakatarisa pa-abridged framework yedu ye-curriculum ndichiona kuti masubjects iyayo amuri kutaura ndiyayo zveshuwa aripo. Pane languages, indigenous language. Ndicho chichona ichocho. Then visual and performance arts.
Sorry, madam.
Right. No, but I'm sure anenge vachiri kuteerera.
Yeah, saka sekutaura kwavaita, yes, maths and science dzakabatana, but science inowana kapiske time yayo, maths inowanawo kapiske time yayo. Regai ndikuudzei ndichiti muri yeZimbabwe manamba emasubjects einfant inyaya yataurwa nevanhu vakawanda, saka tinofanira kuti tizvitarise and izvozvo mas-displays nephysical education tinogona kuti indeed maexperts edu atarise aone kuti zvinogona kubatanidzwa here, toona kuti pavanenge vakuzoita malessons acho kana kuti syllabus yacho woona kuti pane component iyo ye-physical education, then also the aspect ye-mass displays inenge iri pazviri zvakare. Ye-maths vaita sekuti havana ma-problems nemamwe ma-areas, but nyaya iyoyo ye-physical education ne-mass displays as well as the combination ye-maths and science, we will look into that with especially a view to limit the number of learning areas or the number of syllabi that the infant school will be teaching to our learners, so that learning becomes fun. If it's not fun, it becomes very boring, especially for the young ones.
Right. Minister, just a few minutes mumbo mamvura because we'll be right back after this commercial break.
I understand one thing is about to get real hectic up here. Something epic is about to happen. We're going in real legendary. The greatest thing to ever happen.
The final Unplugged of 2016 2017, presented by Coca-Cola, is around the corner. And our special guest straight from the UK is Tim Westwood. If you're a real hip-hop head, then you know what time it is. Live acts on stage including Edith Wiltonga, Transit Crew, Boy Mac and Suede Third, Simba Tags, Takura, and of course the resident DJs Reverb 7 and TK Beats. Because it's December, this Unplugged is strictly no under 18. So whip out your blanket, some wine, and the whole squad and join us at Wingate Golf Club on the 16th of December, starting at 2 p.m. Limited advance tickets available for $10 at webtickets.co.zw or $15 at the gate. Unplugged. Love live music. Proudly supported by Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
Certified heat. Let's go.
Christmas carols, live bands, shopping, and the chance to meet Santa Claus. For the ultimate Christmas experience for the whole family, come over to Sam Levy's Village every Friday evening and Saturday morning until the 23rd of December for some festive fun for the whole family. For more information, go to our website, samleviesvillage.com. Download our app from the App Store and visit our Facebook page, Sam Levy's Village, Borrowdale. Capi Talk FM will be there proudly supporting the festive fun. Visit the Capi Talk FM Lounge at the Clock Tower next to Pistachios every Saturday morning. Sam Levy's Village, Zimbabwe's premium shopping and dining destination. Capi Talk 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
You're listening to Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk station, that is Capi Talk 100.4 FM. And I am joined by Professor Paul Mavhima, who is the new Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, former Deputy Minister. So clearly he's not coming in out of the cold. And we're trying to address some of the key issues coming in from the new curriculum. Now, we do have a lot of callers joining us this morning. I have somebody on the line before we get to our next question, Minister. Hello, good morning. Unfortunately, we've lost that call. But we were talking about elementary school, infant school, Minister, just before we went on that break. And I have a message here, and it says, Zanzi, is it true kuti ECD iri kuda kubviswa, Minister?
No, the ECD has kubviswa. Remember, takatanga kuita ECD, I think around 2004. It was also part of the recommendations of the Commission of 1999. Sakatavine 9-year primary school system. In 2 years, the ECD, then grade 1, grade 2, which we call the infant school. Saka ECD is now iskubviswa. Chakataura Minister of Finance vakati. Currently, government haina resources to give us additional teachers for ECD. We need about 7,000 teachers, additional teachers, the ECD. What the Minister of Finance has appealed to us as a ministry and to the parents is to say, let's generate local resources so that we can support my teachers, ECD. The current teachers we have are going to stay. We are now working on a strategy as a ministry as to how we can bring in the additional teachers that we need, may be supported by levies from schools. But we have to do it in a way that doesn't disadvantage schools that are out there which cannot afford to hire their own teachers. But we're coming up with a program, and I think by the beginning of the year we will have worked out a program that will ensure that every ECD class is taken care of in terms of having teachers.
All right. We do have a caller on the line. You're live on Capi Talk FM. Good morning.
Hello, Mamuka.
Tamuka Mamukao.
Right. Taramundi Chipara. Ni wana vari kuchikora nditi. Issue yangu yekutanga. Last time takamboita meeting na Mr. Minister Dokorapa chimufoni pa radio. He always said done a consultation. I always attend everything concerning schools, zvikoro zvavana chikoro, kwandinoendesa vana chikoro.
I never heard of that or attended any of that. Chechipiri, my subjects, even in primary school, awandisa, aneti. Sadaro manje, vananya kuchikoro kumba, nea homework yakawanda. Ininda vakubasa. I'm tired, I'm supposed to rest. Ndakufana kuti basa ra teacher who is being paid money to do that. Inini, I remember in primary school from grade 1 to 7, there was not even one single day that I not going to the homework. Now it has changed. The vakubasa, I'm supposed to do homework, your teacher. And it's now in South Korea, basa ranga risiro, savannah. Someone is supposed to be paid to do that.
Right.
32. Kumamisha uko. Pana mai vambotara vaiti hanzi dzinoenda painternet ita homework is sector. Mambofunga here kuti kumamisha hakuna magetsi. Hakuna pakompyuta iwayo. Vana futi they walk long distances kuenda kuchikoro 10 kilometers at the most. Emaproject amakuita vana aya. Achaona kuti nguva yekuresta mwana yeye. Mind you, vana makupita iye zvinezika are going to create problems later. Minister iye people. Vana vachapuwa nguva yekutamba. Vanofana kutamba vana. Isu taitika pakuchikoro mabhuku tesa pasi totamba. Anditi.
Right.
Kuchikoro zvine mangwana.
Vachipara mai.
Ngavatarisa ipapo kuti zvimwe zvavakuisa vana vegrade 1 ka hazvinei nenhindira pane something that's very close. What is that? Then chimwe chekupedzisira paagriculture. Please, ngatisafose vanhu kuita mafama. I think from our own experience that not everyone can be a farmer. Give parents the right, and to one of the right to choose a subject.
All right, we are starting to lose you, Vachpara.
You cannot be a farmer.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened with his phone. The sound was getting bad, but he was saying kuti children should choose. We don't have to force them to be farmers. I'm going to ask you to be very brief. I know we've addressed some of those issues before, Minister, but yes, if you can just quickly respond to that.
Yeah, no, and Vachitaurwa na Vachipara, nyaya homework. Unfortunately, you know, his statement is not true. You know, you went to school. Everyone went to school. There was always homework. My uyam chimakiru muchi sainirwa nema parents maita reading. We muri yeZimbabwe inofanira ku understand kuti teaching is a collective responsibility. My parents nema schools. My schools cannot leave everything. I mean, my parents cannot leave everything to schools. They have to participate in the education of their kids. I understand the disparities between rural areas and urban areas, and we are seized with that. My ministry, together with Ministry of ICT, together with the Ministry of Energy, we have prioritized the electrification of schools, we have prioritized the computerization of schools, and a massive program for internet connectivity, led by 3 companies, Tel1, Zanet, and e-learning solutions is underway. And we cannot stop as Zimbabwe. We have to bring our country into the 21st century. And let's do it collectively as a nation.
All right. Professor, we are coming to the end. So I do see a lot of your messages, and we're going to try to get them as quickly as possible. Mamwasho Tukungwa group together to answer in just one go. But just to hit the highlight questions, Zambobuda, Professor, is one of them is about grade 7 registration. A lot of parents varukuti eshnota kutanga kubhadhariswa mari nema schools kuti tiwane nzvimbo dze form 1. What's happening ne process yeku register for form 1?
We started IMAP last year, which is the electronic registration program. Last year we had a lot of problems because it was the alpha version of it, and our team worked tirelessly to remove some of the problems. This year we had a smoother registration program. Once the grade 7 results were out, we started the registration. Most of the high demand schools are now full, and it was a very painless process. Wanagoromonzi, wana Fletcher, you know, wana St. Faith's, wana Christe Mambo, vazara vachitora vana online through the application process. We have situations where some schools, for reasons that we still have to find out, have not done the IMAP. And you know, so students who may have applied to those schools, it's a handful of schools, may still have their applications as pending because those schools have not gone through the process of IMAP. We still have to find out what exactly happened in those schools. And our head office staff is following up on that right now. But we had a smoother process. We may also have some learners who may not have done very well because of the competition that is there. Remember, we have only 24,000 places, whereas we have upwards of, I think, 300,000 grade 7 learners who wrote the exam. So the competition for boarding places is very high. There are places for day school for those who don't get the boarding school. There are places for day school, and those are not in the IMAP system. So the parents have to go straight to the school in their neighborhood in order to get Form 1 places for their kids.
All right. And then I know you clarified this just a few days ago, but we have several messages Zawia extra lessons. If you can just also just talk about that briefly. Parents are complaining, could they still have to pay extra lessons for their children?
Parents are not supposed to pay unless they find a private tutor who has nothing to do with the school. But within the school context, it brings a lot of moral hazard. In the sense that if parents pay for extra work, then the teacher might renege on their typical responsibility to teach during school hours in order for them to demand extra payment in order to teach the kids. So we don't appreciate a situation where parents are paying the regular teachers extra to teach their kids.
So for those vatori situation my extra lessons, what recourse do they have?
My extra lessons, as long as a teacher is saying, I want my learners to pass with flying colors, I'm creating space for maybe remedial work, then there's no problem. But again, the parents does not have responsibility beyond the levies that they are paying to the school and school fees that they're paying. Beyond that, they don't have. The school can make an arrangement internally, but no parent has extra obligation to pay for remedial courses.
But I have to push, Minister. My parents were told, since yesterday we've had parents saying, my children have been told they need extra lessons and we have to pay for them. So for those parents, do they come to your ministry to report? What do they do?
There is a reporting structure for the ministry, which starts at the DSI office, the District Schools Inspector Office. There are inspectors there. There's also the DSI who is overall in charge. So they can go to the district office if there is an abusive relationship that is developing between the school and the parents. So there is a very good reporting structure to which they can go. If they can't be helped there's the province, and we keep an open door policy. The permanent secretary and I, we keep an open door policy. So in the ultimate, they could even refer to head office in order to solve some of those problems.
Okay, then. I've got another message saying that the high talent government warned the teachers it's illegal for them to offer extra lessons. So vasabhadharise here kana kuti vasiyane nekudzidza my extra lessons. I think you've just gotten the answer for the minister.
Yes.
I know you have a busy schedule and an even busier day today, so we're going to have to let you go. For all of the messages that have come in, I promise you we will get through to them, and we'll also then compile them and also send through to the minister, because I think he's also appreciating the feedback.
Yes.
But I cannot thank you enough, Minister, for making the time to come in, and hopefully we'll have you and other members of your office coming in, because clearly there's a lot of concerns coming in from the parents that need to be addressed. But again, thank you so much. If you could close off, what would your last remarks be?
We are doing a consultative process to assess the implementation of our new curriculum after 1 year. and we will be coming back with the recommendations that people may have made. We have met with ZIMTA. We have received an input from PTUZ. I'm going to meet with science teachers just maybe an hour from now, who are gathered at Prince Edward School. So we are going to do an intensive consultation process to assess this new curriculum and make the necessary changes that will improve and result in smooth implementation.
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right, Minister, thank you so much. And like we said before, like the former president said, Iwene nitine basa. Kana kwanza consultation, let's also be part of it and have our voice heard and keep joining in the conversation. This was the first of many interviews that will be coming here at Capi Talk 100.4 FM as we're tracking the first 100 days of the new administration. We've been live streaming this conversation, and you can find it on our Facebook page. That's on @Capi Talk FM on Facebook. You can also find links on Twitter as well on the same handle @Capitalk FM, and our website will definitely have a copy of the podcast. That's on www.capitalkfm.com. So if you've missed any part of that hour-long conversation, you can always catch up with it a little bit later on. So do stay tuned right here on Capi Talk 100.4 FM.